Well, we've covered the big three: Disney, Pixar, and DreamWorks. But there are still plenty more animation studios out there: Sony, Blue Sky, Illumination, and more. However, they don't quite have enough to make their own list. So why don't we just combine them all into this one? Not to say they don't deserve their own lists. It'd just be a good way to showcase how much there actually is out there. Not everything is made by the same three household names. A quick disclaimer. Unfortunately, I was born in 1997, which means I was growing up at a time when 3D animation was being shoved in our face. So unfortunately, many Don Bluth films were before my time, and I missed out on The Iron Giant, which I hear is really good and probably would have made the list if I had the time to check it out. Unfortunately, I just didn't. But hey, there's still some incredible films on this list, so let's stop wasting time and get started with my top 10 favorite other animated films.
I'll stuff you all in the crust.
Monster House. I actually did a review of this one for Halloween last year, and for good reason. It's a super underrated movie, but pretty decent for what it is. As ridiculous as the idea of a monster house is, the movie knows how to take this concept seriously at just the right amount. It's not too scary for kids, but it's not too corny for adults either. It also uses motion capture animation, which may be jarring in some areas, but works really well with the atmosphere of the movie for other areas. Combine all of that with some one-dimensional but still charming characters, and you've got yourself a great film to watch for Halloween. Plus, this movie contains one of the most fantastic and well-written characters in any form of media: Chowder. Go check out my review of Monster House if you want to see me go more in-depth about Chowder's brilliance. Anyways, Monster House welcomes itself to the number 10 spot.
I got 3 words for you: trick or treat.
Stuffed crust.
I'll stuff you all in the crust.
Product placement or fan service cameo movies can lead to very mixed results. You either get a Roger Rabbit, or you get a food fight. And with the Lego Movie being both a fan service-y cameo and product placement movie, you'd be very pessimistic going in. But luckily for us moviegoers, the Lego Movie surpasses all expectations. The movie knows that the fact that it's based around Legos is completely ridiculous and makes the most out of it. It's very funny, it's very creative, and the animation is absolutely gorgeous. The animation was so well done, in fact, that many people even mistook it for stop-motion animation. But even as absurd as this movie was, it still managed to find a way to have some good heart in it. There's some real powerful and emotional scenes that a lot of us can relate to. And the entire movie as a whole does a fantastic job at making us all feel like kids again. The Lego Movie locks in at number 9.
Like a big gigantic ship is just gonna come out of nowhere and save us, my gosh!
Stuffed crust.
I'll stuff you all in the crust.
Here's another movie genre that people are pessimistic about: cartoon-based movies. Typically, the first thing that comes to mind when they're brought up is those terrible live-action and CGI hybrids. You know, Alvin and the Chipmunks, the Smurfs, Yogi Bear, and so on. But every once in a while, the studios behind these original cartoons make the right decision and say, hey, let's just do it ourselves. And the SpongeBob SquarePants movie was born. It was either this or the sequel movie Sponge Out of Water. For me personally, it was an easy decision for the first movie. I think it's structured better, has a focused plot, it has better songs, and it felt like it was more connected to the rest of the series as a whole. Not to say Sponge Out of Water is bad or anything, it just feels like a bunch of different episodes mashed together, whereas the first movie feels like an actual movie. So with the sponge going on his biggest adventure ever, the SpongeBob SquarePants movie soaks up the number 8 spot.
Bubble-blowing babies will be beaten senseless by...
Stuffed crust.
I'll stuff you all in the crust.
Now, a certain film franchise has graced us with little yellow characters that get well-deserved and well-justified criticism. Unfortunately, the franchise itself is also a target of these attacks. Now, while I do enjoy Despicable Me 2 and 3 as well, in my opinion, the first movie deserves the most to be on this list. It gets attacked most often for the creation of the minions, despite being the movie to feature them and show them off the least. And people tend to often forget the other aspects of the movie as well. For example, the heartwarming tale of Gru and the Orphan Girls, or the incredibly hilarious villain, Vector. Now, because it's Illumination, there's clearly not much positive things to say when it comes to the animation itself, but I do find the fun and cartoony designs very pleasing to look at. Overall, it's a feel-good and kind-hearted movie that gets way too much hate for an aspect that really doesn't matter too much. Despicable Me steals the number 7 spot.
I sit on the toilet. What?
Stuffed crust.
I'll stuff you all in the crust.
I don't know what it is about Sing. I know it's one of the most mediocre animated films ever created. The plot is awkwardly paced, the characters are one-dimensional, almost everything was spoiled in the trailers, the character designs are super awkward and poorly thought out, but I just happen to like it. I guess it's because the movie does the best job at what it's about, the singing. Whether it's Seth MacFarlane's cover of My Way, the original songs like Set It All Free or Faith, or even the covers that they managed to do better than the originals like I'm Still Standing. They're all just done well enough to make it one of those feel-good movies. And yes, I said better than the originals. Somehow, this movie managed to make a cover of an Elton John song sound better than the original. That is a feat. It did so well at its job that it briefly made me want to start a singing competition of my own right here on YouTube. How stupid is that? So Sing takes center stage for number 6.
Oh, date.
Stuffed crust.
I'll stuff you all in the crust.
Here we have possibly the most unique out of all the LEGO movies. While the first LEGO movie was a product placement fan-service-y movie, and the second one was a Batman movie, this one is pretty much entirely original, based on something else LEGO that was entirely original. Before this movie, there was actually a LEGO Ninjago TV series on Cartoon Network, and I watched it. So there actually were a few things I knew and was prepared for going in. What I wasn't prepared for though is how much I would laugh. This movie is absurdly more funny than the original LEGO movie. And it's funny on its own too, you don't have to know the series to understand the movie itself. While it is less impressive in the animation department compared to the first movie and lacking a bit of heart, I still found watching this movie to be an overwhelmingly entertaining experience. I know it's not objectively better than the other LEGO movies, but I personally like it the most. LEGO Ninjago spins its way to number 5.
I told you it was bad.
Oh, that's way worse than anything I could have thought. That's bad.
Stuffed crust.
I'll stuff you all in the crust.
When it comes to Blue Sky, people immediately jump on the Ice Age franchise and dump all over it, forgetting the other stuff Blue Sky has done, like that decent Peanuts movie, or of course, Rio. For those who don't know, I love birds. So for a movie like this to be completely dedicated to them, I was instantly hooked. The animation is great, the characters are fun, the songs are fantastic even though they get interrupted a lot of the time, and overall it's just a pretty good movie. Nothing compared to Pixar or DreamWorks, but still good enough. I will admit though that this movie does play it way too safe and probably enforces what people think when they say animation is only for kids, but it could have done a lot worse. It's still very entertaining and gorgeous to look at. Rio flies into the number 4 spot.
You know what? Squawk, squawkity, squawk, squawk! I'm sorry. I didn't mean to curse.
Stuffed crust.
I'll stuff you all in the crust.
Dragon Ball Super Broly. I honestly really wanted to put this movie at number 1 due to how much fun I had watching it. But that was more due to the audience I was watching the movie with rather than the movie itself. They were cheering and hollering, laughing and applauding at all the greatest parts, and why wouldn't they? It just all helped enhance the experience of the greatest Dragon Ball movie ever made. Now while the movie does have a few flaws like the plot being explained poorly for newcomers and the animation being repetitive during fight scenes with characters swooping in super close or super tiny flea-sized into the background, it has more than enough positives to make up for it. For example, they turned Broly into an absolutely fantastic character. They made him developed without taking away his blind rage and awesomeness that we all loved. Not to mention, added another lady to the list of quality Dragon Ball girls in the form of Chi-Lai. Overall, Broly met and surpassed all the expectations of hype that everyone had for it. Dragon Ball Super Broly instant transmissions into number 3.
Just look death stare.
But, like, if we do give him back, Lord Frieza will murder us.
Stuffed crust.
I'll stuff you all in the crust.
Okay, this one's gonna weird a bunch of people out, but remember with Rio, I like birds. That already gave it a bonus point. Aside from that though, Surf's Up deserves to be up here in my opinion. It's a very unique movie. With its documentary and reality sports show style formatting, it's able to turn completely generic characters into interesting, fleshed out, real feeling people. It uses a lot of improv comedy, the animation is spectacular for the time it came out, and the movie in general is just entertaining, funny, and highly underrated. So much that I even did a mini review of it last year. Perhaps I should do a full-sized one later on. The movie has an amazing cast and an amazing soundtrack that basically screams 2000s, as it plays Drive and 2 different Green Day songs within the first 15 minutes. With how good it looks and how unique it is, Surf's Up is truly an underrated gem that you need to check out while it surfs its way into number 2.
Good old shiver pool. This place sucks, bro.
Stuffed crust.
I'll stuff you all in the crust.
Now, I came up with the idea to do this list right before I saw Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, and when I saw it, it immediately shot up to number 1, but I even delayed this video to let it settle in my mind to make sure I wasn't putting it there out of hype. But when I felt the same way about Dragon Ball Super Broly and it was able to settle within a few days, I knew Spider-Verse belonged here. The animation in this movie is unlike anything I've ever seen before. It's downright innovative, similar to the Peanuts movie a couple years back. Remember what that animation did for Captain Underpants? I cannot wait to see what Spider-Verse's animation does to inspire other movies. Despite having a crazy plot, it's easy to follow and it's a treat for Spider-Man fans, and there's a real emotional story to tell that a lot of people can connect to. In 2018, we got the greatest Spider-Man video game ever made, and it looks like it was followed by the greatest Spider-Man movie ever made. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse sticks to number 1. But overall, those were my other top 10 favorite animated films. I can't wait to see more from these studios and more studios popping up within the coming years.